Okay, so I just got done going over and looking at the data on the last two quizzes that you took. The good news is that on one of the quizzes, the average grade was an 88, and on the other quiz, the average grade was a 90. Generally speaking, excellent results on the quiz. On each of the quizzes, there was one question that only 76% of the kids got correct. And that's what I'm going to go over with you now. So one of these comes from each of the quizzes. The first one said to evaluate AB squared if A is 3 and B is -5. So there are a couple of possible errors that you could have made here. I didn't list one of them. I should mention it right here. Give me 1 second. As you can see, I'm an awful typist. Okay, so the most likely, my bet on the most common error, and I've spoken about this a number of times, and for whatever reason, it just, I wish I had a better way of making sure kids did this correctly, but I explain it and it just doesn't happen with some kids. My bet on the most common error is that you forgot to put parentheses around the -5. What you should enter into the calculator is, if you have a graphing calculator, exactly what I wrote here. 3 parentheses -5 parentheses squared. You put that in, you will get it right every single time. The graphing calculator will, if you write it like this, it knows that you want to square the whole -5. You could also do 3 times -5 squared, and that one would also work for a graphing calculator. Either way, the calculator will know that they are to square the -5. What you never want to do, what you don't want to do, is 3 times -5 squared, because all graphing calculators, and from what I've seen, most scientific calculators, will correctly interpret this as square the 5, that'll get you 25, then negate it, that's -25, times 3 is -75. That's not what the answer is. The answer is +75, because -5 in parentheses squared is +25, and that times 3 is 75. Okay? It's also possible you did the order of operations wrong. It's possible that you did 3 times -5 and got -15 and then squared that. I don't think you would make that mistake, but that is also a possible mistake. So that's the question on one quiz that gave kids a hard time, and the second quiz that gave the students a hard time was which cannot express A minus B. Unfortunately, I can't see the choices that either the kid chose or what the choices are. So I can only talk in terms of generalities, in terms of what I would have done when I made this question. The question said which cannot express A minus B. So maybe you misread that and said, oh, which can express it, and you just chose the first one right away. That's a possible error. That's a seriously possible error. It's the kind of thing I would do sometimes when I was younger. The types of choices that can work. So in other words, you would have seen 3 of these types of choices. B less than A. I'm seeing, if you remember, with less than, you got to switch the order. Last shall be first, first shall be last. B fewer than A, same thing. From A, subtract B. I'm testing to see if you remember that the from goes first. Or subtract B from A. I didn't write that one, but that's also there. Okay, a little typo here. Oh. Or you could have said A decreased or diminished by B. Those are all things that, all algebraic terminology that represents A minus B. Here's the 2 that cannot be. So they would have been the correct choice to choose. A less than B, because you wouldn't have switched the order, which you should have done. Or from B subtract A. That's not the case, because from is supposed to go first. So without the choices in front of me, I tend to think that you either put the thing that can express it and just said, oh, I'm done, and didn't read, you missed over that word not, or you messed up either the less than or the from B subtract A. but that would be my suspicion in terms of what may have gone wrong. Overall, fantastic job on the quizzes. Great job. We're averaging right about an A. I mean, can't do a whole lot worse than that. But let's clean those up before we take the test. All right? Have a great one. Bye-bye.